welcome back to the Rake. As you can see, I'm still on vacation, but I'm phoning in today I'm phoning it in all the time, but today I'm phoning in with a very special guest. She is one of Canada's, I think, top 50 all-time money winners, a EPT final tableist, a PCA final tableist. She was born in either China or Canada. The internet isn't sure.
I was born in China, by the way, Tianjin, China.
Xuan Liu, welcome to the Rake.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm looking at your background and you're plugging Poker Powher. This kind of hit the scene this year pretty hard. I've heard a lot of people talking about it. A lot of really good female players have contributed, and you guys ran that huge tournament online that seemed like everyone got into. Do you want to give me some background on it, how you got involved, and what your mission is?
Yeah, I'll start from day one. So I actually applied for this esports job with this esports team and didn't get the job, but they actually got me in touch with someone at Poker Powher serendipitously. And I was initially just dabbling with them for a while, just as an instructor, just seeing what the company was all about. And I just, I've always loved this mission, helping women out. I used to do, when I first did coaching, I used to always offer 50% discount to females. And so it's definitely a cause I'm super passionate about, and just seeing how the company has operated, its leadership, its direction, just made me completely fall in love with poker again. And now I'm like definitely back on the wagon. Like I'm excited to play again. Like I go into work, whether as an instructor or a consultant or as a member of the advisory board, and I feel like I'm actually making a difference. Not just in, the lives of my students. It's just so rewarding to see like women who otherwise wouldn't come into the game, gain so much confidence and fall in love with it the way I did way back in the day.
Speaking of way back in the day, you've said in other places that when you first were interested in poker, you would set up hands with your stuffed animals in a circle, I believe, and experiment. Which stuffed animals were the best at poker?
Snowy and Starry.
So what were Snowy and Starry? What were they?
They were both white bears that I got from like the Christmas donation fund, because we were poor and we would get gifts from the community center.
It's a pretty incredible story coming from, quite humble beginnings to traveling the world playing poker. Can you tell us a bit about, first discovering poker, moving up from the stuffed animal games to home games, to being a EPT world traveler? And also, while we're talking about animals, can you hold Didi up a little higher so everyone can meet Didi?
This is Didi Bear. He's a mini poodle from Taiwan that I adopted last year, right before quarantine. He's an old man. He's a grumpy old man, but I love him.
We feel the same way about Ben.
I'm not old. Wait, am I old? Somebody tell me if I'm
old. Beginnings. Sure. As we know now, I was born in China. I arrived in Canada when I was 5 years old. Always loved games, team sports, things like that. The moneymaker effect kind of happened around the time I was in college, and I jumped straight into it, saw it as a great time to make supplementary income playing poker. I felt like those guys on TV were doing nothing that I couldn't do. And even though initially I just like dabbled and played some cash and sit and goes online, I was like pretty successful, not like as hard of a grinder as like a lot of people during that age, but like I won Battle of the Planets one year for like sit and go leaderboards, and I was like one of the top winners at like Rush Poker when it first came out on Full Tilt Poker. And after that, I was able to sell action and play in 5Ks naturally, with like not too much to my name. My parents were super against the idea, but eventually came around when my mom gave me an ultimatum telling me I could play poker for like a full year and travel. But after that, like I would have to like settle down, do my CFA and get some sort of white collar job.
Yeah, how hard was it to risk so much money when you grew up with so little? Like buying in, actually physically handing over $5,000 to play an event. Doesn't that kind of feel different when you were scraping by as a kid?
Um, I mean, we were scraping. We weren't. My parents have worked really hard. I started working when I was 12. Like I've had 2 or 3 jobs like through the time I was in college. So even though like we didn't have much, like I feel like I always had a pretty good live work ethic to be able to like afford things that I wanted and things like that. But yeah, that initial 5K was obviously nuts, like the high stakes I played online was like probably like $100 sit and go or something. But I just had people telling me like, tournaments are for donks and you're like definitely good enough to just win heaps at it. And so I might have let it get to my head a little bit. Like I'm pretty sure I would have just like straight up won the 2 tournaments I final tabled if I just like learn some tournament strategy before like jumping into them. Like, how cash game players are, they like look down on tournament players so much. Yeah, like I feel like I actually play better when I'm like selling action. Obviously I had to sell heaps when I played those events. Initially I sold like on 2+2 and then just like private buyers and I think I sold on like poker shares for a little bit when they were first starting out. So just like all over the place.
Yeah, the money thing is funny because my parents were both just middle school teachers and my family had too many kids. So like there was never like this, oh, there's just spare thousands lying around or something. And the first time I ever had a bank was like, I didn't even know what I was doing, but I won a $50 freeze when poker was booming on Stars and it was for 9K. And I remember like I was at my mom's house at the time. In the morning, I was like, I just won $9,000 at this poker tournament. She's like, no. And I was like, no, really. And I show her my account. She's like, take it out though. She's like, it's not real. Yeah. And like, it wasn't real till I actually got a check, was able to cash it. And I literally did almost take every dollar out because it was so much. Like I left maybe $200 on or something. And it was just so funny now thinking about that like.
Classic for buy-in bankroll management.
Well, I would put money in to play that night. I'd be like, I want to play a $50 tournament, deposit $50. Like that's what I used to do. But it is interesting now that like after so much time that buy-ins just don't feel like money. It's just like, it's so different than how I used to think about it. But then also we've talked about this on the pod before, when you actually win, it also doesn't feel like, oh, I could go buy a car. It's like, this is just more buy-ins.
It goes on the pile.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how happy are your parents now, Xuan, that you finally have the white collar job?
True.
You're a respectable member of society.
So my mom and my stepdad didn't really come around until like one year in like 2013. I got invited to go to WPT Sanya in China. And then they saw like my face on this huge like billboard and they're like, oh, I guess like this is kind of working out. But you know how they are. Like, obviously I can't tell them of like times when I, lose 10K buy-ins or things like that. It's just beyond like their grasp of things. Like my mom always taught me that like a penny saved is like a penny earned kind of deal. And it's just so foreign. Like they grew up with a completely different mentality. And I think like being in the poker world really also messes with like your relationship with money for sure. Like I did not have proper bankroll management. I definitely made some like financial mistakes, even at like the peak when I was like traveling a lot.
What do you mean even at the peak? The peak is the easiest time to make financial mistakes.
Well, like even though I was winning a lot at that time, I like sold so much action. And it was always like about, okay, but next, like I'm just gonna take more of myself for this event because I'm obviously gonna like final table it again. And then I'll be set. And then, I won't have to sell action anymore or something like that.
Wait, that's bad? That's not what you're supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean,
I think I've, that's not true. I've had a lot of myself at like 2 big final tables or 3, but like I think the Berlin EPT was like the first EPT that I sold action for. I had like 100% of myself for like 20 bricks, and then had like 33 for that or something.
That's brutal. I think a lot of my bad bankroll decisions have been from like just procrastination, like a lack of planning, where I feel like, maybe I'll play this event. I'm not sure. And then it's like the day before the event. I'm like, I really want to play it now. And then I would just scramble to sell something. And I'm like, I wouldn't sell it as much as I should. And then I'd play it anyway. And I did that so many times.
Same.
Anytime I had a big pile of money, I just didn't want to do the work.
Yeah.
I was just like, what am I selling action for? I'm not a fucking accountant. I'm a poker player. I didn't want to do any of the grunt work, and I still don't, which is why, I'm washed in the post-Selfer era, because it's all grunt work to me.
We interrupt this podcast with a message from our sponsors at Run It Once. Right now on Run It Once Poker, we invite all players to join us in celebrating the European Championship with our Euro Match Pick'em promotion. From now until July 11th, every game day, players on Run It Once Poker can earn extra rewards by selecting the correct winner based on the spread for the day's match. And if you're a first-time depositor on Run It Once Poker, any rewards you earn during this promotion will be doubled. Plus, first-time depositors will also receive 1 month of free access to all essential content on Run It Once training. For full details, head to once.run/pick'em. That's once.run/PICKEM. And now, let's get back to the pod.
So you are working with Poker Powher. You have you've been doing commentary. Do you feel happier or healthier at a place that you're at now with sort of side projects as opposed to when your income was solely from poker? Do you feel like that's something that contributes a lot to your quality of life?
100%. Something I will advocate for, which is coming up in like my YouTube video that I've been working on for 3 weeks, is telling people that like if you're a recreational player and poker is your hobby, like it's so rewarding. But if it's like your livelihood and primary source of income, it fucking sucks.
I agree. Poker sucks. But if you're going to play on runitonce.com, the place where poker sucks the least.
You heard them, folks. Head to runitonce.com, the place where learning poker sucks the least. And runitonce.eu, the place where playing poker sucks the least.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, like the opportunities that are just like kind of falling in my lap without me like really going after them. As you guys know, like I was trying to get the heck out of poker for a little bit, like after my divorce. Yeah, I tried really hard to do something else, but it seems like there's like another poker boom on the horizon, and I'm like partnered with this company that I'm so proud to be associated with, and I get excited like waking up every day, finding more opportunities for women to get into the game, and for myself, like I'm the happiest I've been in like a long time, for sure, since like the first 2 years that I got into poker, probably, which is like a decade ago.
That's awesome. You deserve it. You've been in poker so long, and I feel like a lot of people get rewarded with big scores and stuff like that, but like there's other rewards in poker, and sometimes it's just like living a different life path than most people would be comfortable with, like just letting opportunities come to you. And like I knew you were getting into real estate and stuff, and like I'm sure that was interesting for a little while, but then Poker Powher comes along, and then like you're going to be doing a bunch of Mandarin commentary for Poker King, which is cool. We're going to Cabo together. We'll try to keep each other out of trouble. I don't know if that'll work.
Don't keep each other out of too much trouble.
Should be fun. But no, that's like one of the things that I appreciate about this like weird path, is that you can say yes to a lot of opportunities. You have time, you have like more agency over your decisions and over your life than if you were working a full-time job that you had to cling to in order like to survive. And I'm just like so glad that you're into so many different things that are making you happy, because I think in poker, like a lot of people, especially now that it's harder and there's more studying and things that Ben's not willing to do. It's really hard to just be a poker player, and there used to be this like stigma about it. If you were like doing other jobs, it's like, oh, you couldn't make it as a poker player. It's like it's not really how it is. It's like you're looking for life happiness and a good balance. And I think some of these opportunities will probably like reignite your passion for poker, because you can't play every minute of every day. That's how I feel, at least. Do you feel more like inclined to study and try to find events to play now that you're busier?
I've already planned my like July schedule. So like me and my partner, we also like bought a house in Vegas. So I guess I'm just gonna spend more time there and play more poker this year at least. Poker Powher is also doing like a really cool initiative where, we're getting a lot more women into the field, because like tournament turnouts are so low for females. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing some live poker. It got to the point where I definitely missed it. It's been like 2 years probably since I like played a real event. And yeah, just everything just seems to be like falling apart really nicely.
Did you just say falling apart really nicely?
Falling together.
Okay. I feel like things are falling apart really nicely for me too. You bought a house in Vegas. You're working on your July schedule. Do you ever get the feeling of, because you said earlier that you spent a lot of time trying to escape poker, do you ever worry, does the feeling bother you of getting pulled back in, or is it just pure excitement right now, having not done it for a couple of years?
So when I was playing a lot, I really disliked doing media stuff a lot of the time. I just wasn't good at it. I was anxious. I felt like my time could have been used elsewhere. But at the same time, I felt guilty because I never really leveraged like the media attention I did have into like I got like brand sponsorship deals, and that was good, but it was always something that like tore me in like so many different directions. And I think because I'm more confident and like aware of who I am and what I want, I'm able to like compartmentalize and focus on the direction I want to go and make everything be more like purposeful and intentional, which definitely alleviates like a lot of the stress involved with like the being in the public eye aspect. And honestly, there's a lot of opportunities out there in the poker world. Like if you're just willing to, do like the media stuff, if you want. If you only want to be a grinder and you're not good at that stuff, it's definitely a lot harder, but not impossible. You just have to game select really well and like kind of know the right people, I guess. But so that specific aspect, I wouldn't want to just like keep my head down and only grind poker anymore.
Yeah.
What about those of us who don't want to do either thing?
Well, then the world's your oyster.
One of your tweets stuck out to me because I was following, I don't even really watch tennis, the sports I just never got too into, but about the Naomi Osaka thing where she was fined $15,000 for basically being depressed. Like she didn't want to speak to the media after one of her matches. And she had actually had a similar experience in like 2018 after winning. She didn't want to talk. She had a super awkward news conference where she was just talking about how empty the win felt and giving the reporters not what they wanted. They want to hear how like, this is life-changing, amazing. Everyone should go after their goals. And she's like, I don't feel like that. I feel like I related to that a lot. And you clearly did too with your tweet. Is this like what you're kind of referring to when you're talking about media stuff with like, basically you have to be in the right frame of mind to do it. You have to like, you want to be like true to yourself and not bullshit people. So if you're not feeling great, you don't want to give an interview. Like how do you deal with that? Because you're putting yourself out there a lot more than you used to. Are there times where you like wake up and you're like, I don't want to, like, I just kind of want to play online and not talk to anyone? Or is it something like you go into this, like wanting to be more in the spotlight?
So I would have to say it's not about like really waking up and being like, I don't want to talk to anyone. It's more about like when you're playing like 8 hours and then, you only get a 5-minute break, and females have smaller bladders, and I like to stay hydrated at the table. But like, I love the media, don't get me wrong. Like, I think they work so hard, and so many of them are like talented and amazing humans. So like, and also it's like a privilege, to give an interview for them. So it's just, again, like pulling in like the different directions, and like not feeling like I could say no, even though like 5 minutes every 2 hours is like really not that much. So I think I'll handle it a lot better. And yeah, because I'm gonna be in charge of like how my image will be in the future, I think it'll be a lot easier.
Yeah, I feel like that's there are definitely off days. Like, I feel like I'm generally kind of extroverted, but then there are days where like I feel exhausted from commentating. I couldn't speak to another person the rest of the day. I think the more stuff that you like put out there proactively, you get to kind of create your own image, I guess. And like, if you don't ever talk to anyone, you don't do podcasts, you don't do whatever, and then you like get stopped for a 5-minute media thing and you sound like short and abrupt and you're like, I don't want to talk right now, then that's the only thing people know about you. Like, man, that girl's a snob or something like that. But I feel like the more stuff you put out like actively, the less those like moments where you're like kind of off, or you just like feel introverted or you don't want to talk, the less those matter, because you've already like been like, this is who I am. Like, when you feel comfortable, you're like promoting the things you want to promote and whatever. And I don't know. I just think there's been so much talk in poker media with like the Dan Coleman thing comes up a lot, where he just like didn't want to promote poker. He just felt like he got, he's getting like the best end of it, where he's a great player, but he also ran super good and was like, cool, I can just take this money and like leave poker. And media was so hard on him for not just saying like everyone should quit school and play poker. Like, for not, whatever, giving them the sound bites that they need to write articles and do whatever. But I think that that's unfortunate, because people like in all different walks of life play poker for different reasons. And there shouldn't be an expectation for people to like, appease poker media.
Do you guys think that being on the other side, and I mean, we're all now, wow, it's really weird to think of myself as like poker media, but you guys are doing commentary as well, and doing these interviews. Do you think being on the other side of it has helped you to sort of navigate that process better?
I think a lot of it is not having my livelihood tied to how well I do in poker, and not being like stressed when I'm like, I really needed this 5-minute break, and to just like, either meditate or just like have silence in a while. Like, you can't get that anywhere. I'm often hiding in like the girls' room in the stall,
Yeah, me too.
So I would say it's less about like empathizing with the media, and more about like, because I'm not stressed about like making my income for the year from like how well I do in this tournament. Yeah, it's just giving me a lot more leeway.
Yeah, for me, it's just like understanding where they're coming from. I'm like, this person doesn't want to annoy me on a break either. They just need to do their job. So sometimes it's just, hey, right now is not good, but like after the tournament, I'll give you as much time as you want, or I'll write you something, like send me an email. I'd rather just like respond to it that way, and whatever. It's just, if you're not feeling yourself, because that's the one thing that bothers me the most, is just feeling really fake, like acting happy or acting like, oh yeah, the tournament's going great, everyone should come play this, whatever, when you feel like shit. Like, there's definitely times where you're just like, I either could give them not what they want by saying I'm miserable and like some guy's talking my ear off, I'm playing like shit, whatever, or being fake. And it's like, or maybe just postpone the questions for another time when you're actually like genuinely feeling happy to be playing poker, happy that it's your job. And I have that with podcasting sometimes too. It's just, if you're in a huge downswing, like I'd love to hear people's stories about how they're doing well. And it's like actually uplifting sometimes when I'm in like a big downswing or something, but it's really hard for me to be like, yay, poker all the time. When like, this lifestyle doesn't, it's not like consistent, steady, like, oh, every day I'm like pretty happy. It's like, this is a roller coaster of a life. It's hard.
And going back to what you were saying about Naomi Osaka, and how she was like depressed after her win. Like, I super felt like that after like my 2 like $500,000 scores. The first one, I was like, oh, this is kind of a fluke, but I guess this is cool. And the second one was like, okay, what am I going to do with my life now? Like, I'm not just going to keep doing this. So it was never like, hey, like I made it, or like, I don't know. It was always like, okay, what's next? And that's definitely like a mental thing I've had to work on. It's like not an uncommon situation, I think.
It's like a fear of success kind of thing too. It's like, because that's part of the fear of success is like when you're striving for something for so long and then you actually get it and you're like, wow, my mindset was to get this thing for so long that I didn't think past what happens when I get it. Like I was like that with the job. The first law job I ever got, I was like in law school, I was like, I don't think I'm good enough for this. I'm not smart enough for this, whatever. And then as an intern, I just like crushed this job. I was happy every single day to be working there. I loved it. When I got the job, I was like, oh shit. Like I was like, now I'm thinking, can I do this for 30 years? Can I fake it? Like, and whatever. And it was just a weird, like very strong fear of success. And I ultimately didn't like the job, so it was fine. Problem solved itself.
I think a lot of those issues crop up where you set yourself a goal that you think is what you want, but maybe you're not quite in touch with or you just structure your life towards this thing, and you kind of build up all of these underlying mental processes, and your drive is all pointed one direction, and then you get there. And I had this experience after the win in Berlin, which was a big milestone. I was like euphoric for a day and a half or 2 days or something. And then I was super depressed because I was like, well, I got here. Now what do I do with all of my tools, all of this mental gear that I have picked up or constructed to drive me in a certain direction? Got here, not that happy with it. I have to kind of tear all these frameworks down and reevaluate the goals that I set for myself. I think oftentimes you can, especially if you're a driven person, which I'm not anymore, but I was once. You set yourself kind of towards something, and you drive and drive and drive to get there. But all of those tools that got you there are maybe no longer useful once you get there. And then you're kind of left with, okay, how do I make my decisions now? How do I organize my life now? How do I organize my interior world now that this thing hasn't worked?
Yeah, but clearly everything you've done and everything you've worked for has led to this podcast. Like, this is clearly your highest and best use.
Jamie's trying to get me to walk into the ocean and never come back right now. She's so tired of me as a co-host.
But yeah, like I think this happens to a lot of people who experience a big windfall too, like lottery winners and stuff. It's just it's huge wins in poker too are not that unlike lottery wins, where it separates you from a bunch of people that you related to right before the win. Like if you're someone who grinds tournaments, you probably have a lot of friends that are like swinging all over the place that you talk to all the time. Like, oh man, it'd be nice to have that big score. Like hitting a massive score, and then all of a sudden all these people around you who are struggling, that has to be hard too. Like, did you have a problem dealing with that? A lot of people start backing their friends and lose all their money. That's probably how I would deal with it.
I've definitely been on both sides. Like I said, I have a lot of people who owe me money who I know like I'm just never going to see it, and that's fine. It's just like the nature of the business. I think, yes, it's part of it is seeing like your friends not do well. But another part is like when you're in the industry long enough, you just see like everything, like every ugly side of humans, and you know,
there's a lot of them.
Yeah. And it's depressing, and you can't really separate yourself from it either, because you're part of the industry and you're perpetuating this behavior a lot of the time, whether subconsciously or not. And so like when I really wanted to get out of poker, it was just because I was like depressed and felt like I wasn't contributing anything to the world. And so, yeah, you just like kind of slowly start drowning. And like, because I knew like even having another big score wasn't gonna like make me happy, like I kind of sought for that contentment elsewhere.
And what have you found to make you the most content besides DD and actually moving
no,
to Vegas
including
so that we
DD.
can hang out?
Honestly, I'm a huge advocate for like living life slowly. I love gardening. I I do like video games. I haven't played any this week, but especially after my divorce, when I was super depressed, I would like immerse myself in video games and gardening and drawing, and just, resetting my brain basically, to like be okay with not being someone in like the spotlight, but also just like being a nobody, I think has like its perks. There's no like pressure.
Can confirm.
But like having been in that state for a little bit, like I'm like starting to regain my confidence and everything. And so it almost feels like a cop-out when, I do have these opportunities to potentially make a difference, no matter how small. And if you don't like use that talent and skill, you're kind of doing a disservice as well to society.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The Poker Powher stuff. I really think that if I wasn't a woman, if I was just a male playing poker, I would have lost interest in it and stopped a while ago. There were a couple of times that I just feel like it ignited a fire in me to feel like I was doing something worthwhile, where it was just like, oh, I'm getting underestimated here, and I'm going to do a good job or something like that, a commentary job or like anything having to do with poker, where it's like, when you are such a small minority in the field, it somehow feels more important to just like be a good role model or like do a good job at something you've been hired for, or even just like play kind of well. I don't want to hear it, Ben. He's about to make fun of me. But no, like it does have like another aspect to it that I feel like I might have moved on to something else, if not for being such a small minority and trying to grow the game for women. And I like, similar to you, I enjoy coaching women more. I pretty much only have coached like older women in the past like 3 or 4 years. And it's fun. And I also feel like they don't have the community, like really hard to like get your foothold in poker. If you're like a mid-50s woman who is like, you don't get invited to stay at a grindhouse in Vegas with a bunch of people. It's really hard to like find your friends and find your place. And I also think they get excluded even from like certain women's groups, because people, when they talk about women in poker, I don't think they're thinking of like middle-aged women who like come into the game and just like enjoy it and want to play. They still are skewing younger and thinking about like, oh, these women who get all these opportunities and they get sponsorships and podcasts and blah, blah. And I'm like, I really think like the women who are like in their 50s and older, they deal with the sexism and the bullshit, and they don't get any of the good side, which is like, their marketability and like opportunities and stuff. So like, those are the people that like I enjoy coaching the most, because it's like, here, I can show you all these people and like give you friends and give you an idea of like how to get into the game. Like, here are some tools you could look at. And I just feel like that's why I'm excited for you for Poker Powher, because I think that's reaching out to like the people who probably have the hardest time getting into poker and the hardest time staying, because they're going to experience a lot of the crap without any of the upside. Are you finding that to be your experience as well? It's usually slightly older women who like are looking for community.
Well, Poker Powher does, we're open to like women of all demographic. And actually, the last event we run in partnership with World College Poker, there was a bounty on my head, and the lady who won my bounty, Carolyn Grad, she's actually quite an accomplished poker player, and she fits the exact description you're saying. She's a retired teacher. I had a really cool session with her, and it was like really nice listening to her talk about her accomplishments, because she's been in poker for a long time, like probably as long as I have, but because she doesn't fit that, paradigm of like poker representative. If you're a female, like she hasn't had the recognition. She just like loves the game. But then like there's another like spectrum of players that Poker Powher focuses on, because Peak Six, our parent company, has like a trading side of it. There's also like the E-type personalities, the like hardcore female traders that like we want to arm with like better, mental skills and things like that through poker skills. So yeah, like we're not discerning with like what women we teach. I completely agree, like that the demographic you're referring to has often been like overlooked, and that's like a huge part of our marketing efforts to just like say, hey, no matter like what your sexual orientation or age or background or anything, like there's a place for you at Poker Powher. They're completely free courses. So like you don't need any money to get started. And we want to build that confidence in them so that like maybe one day they're going to want to play more co-ed games, and maybe they're also going to get the recognition that they deserve for their accomplishments.
So I want to say thanks, guys, for listening to our meandering pod with Xuan. It's always really nice to catch up with you. I'm so happy that you're going to be in Vegas a lot more, and I'm extra so happy that we're both commentating the Poker King WPT event in Cabo. If this pod's over in 2 weeks, it's because I drank too much there, we got into trouble and got kidnapped or something. So it's been fun.
Don't be too excited about her moving to Vegas, because it means I'm going to be on her couch like all the time. So anytime you go over to her place, you're going to have to see me.
All right, then I'll just invite Xuan to my house.
That makes a lot more sense. Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.